Here's a situation that happened to me, right? The other day, I'm out at an open bar, right? And it's an open bar that is part of this membership group, essentially, where you pay to be a member, and as part of being a member, you get access to these open bars. So that's important because, or relevant because, what it ends up meaning is that you kind of run into the same people fairly often. And in running into the same people fairly often, I've made a few friends in the group, right? And this one night in particular is going to involve one of those friends, right? But the night kind of goes like this. I get there, and right after getting there, I, like, as I'm walking in, I kind of see on the street, several hundred feet behind me, a woman that looks a bit familiar. Right? So I don't quite recognize her, but I go up to the open bar, which is on the rooftop. Um, Go ahead and start to settle in, say hi to a few people. Again, some other folks that I've recognized and seen before and talked to before. And then I notice that she ends up coming up to the rooftop as well. So after a short while, I go over to say hi, and there is like the recognition from both of us that we've seen each other before, and it ends up coming back to both of us where and when we saw each other, right? So it had been several months since we last had seen each other, but when we did, we connected, had a good time, had some laughs, had some fun. Um, Tried to follow up a little bit after, and that didn't happen though. So we reconnect on the rooftop there, start talking, conversation's going well. Again, have a couple drinks, being part of the open bar. Then, another friend of mine comes in, is there at the open bar. But so I see him, talking to others, and I decide, well, hey, let me introduce this woman to them. Introduce the woman to them, and it kind of quickly becomes a group of three of us, me, the woman, and the friend. Uh, Talking for a while, conversation's going well, and as the conversation's going well, she starts showing interest in him, and that's fine. Like, it's good. I'm quite happy for him, right? He's someone who is social, who is a good guy, and so it's good to see him doing well. It gets to one point where kind of pulls me to the side and asks, "Hey, so what's the history between you two? Because, I feel like she kind of likes me, but I don't want to step on your toes, so to speak, right?" And as he's kind of saying this, I'm like, "Oh, and then she comes right back up to where we are and interrupts our little, one-on-one bro chat, so to speak. So I don't quite get to tell him the full background, but he and her end up, she kind of comes over and says, "Oh, what were you guys talking about? So on, so on." Um, and I think somehow, maybe we just admit that, like, "Oh yeah, we were talking about how I knew you." And maybe he says like, "Oh yeah, I didn't know if you all were together." And she quickly says no. And just a general rule, because this has happened to me when talking to others. If there are two people out and you ask them if they're together and one of the people says no, then the answer is no, right? It takes two to tango. And we were not together, right? Not even, it had been 9 months since I'd last seen or spoken to her, so absolutely not together. And even that night, I was on my way to another date, with someone that I really do like and really am trying to build a relationship with. And so there was no way I was going to miss out on that for this person that, albeit we'd had a great conversation, great time, the kind of connection didn't really follow through. However, uh, so he and her end up going off. I end up going to this other date, and he kind of follows up a little bit later to say like, "Hey, man, I don't feel like I really got the opportunity to get the full background from you, and I just wanted to make sure that, um, essentially, I just felt a little bit bad that maybe I ended up interrupting something." And so I appreciated him following up, right? He is a good guy. He is someone I consider a friend, or at the very least an acquaintance, right? A good person that I'd like to get to know more. Um, the one thing that I did make me feel a little bit odd was the sense that um, he heard "we're not together" from her, and kind of went off of that before getting kind of the full background or details from me. And the answer for me would have been the exact same answer, but it felt a little bit to me like she said green light, and so we went go, as opposed to checking with me to get the go. And again, that doesn't have to be a bad thing, right? If you're interested in her answers to the question more than your mine, then you don't even really need to hear my answer. She said go, then go. However, I feel like if we are to become friends, then that has to change, right? My opinion has to be considered, and has to be considered more highly than the opinion of someone who you just met, within the last hour or so. And so that was a situation where I did feel a little bit, I guess you could say I was a little bit in my feelings, but I felt a little bit like shortchanged. It made me feel like, oh man, we're not on the level of friendship that I would have hoped. Because if we were on the level of friendship, then you would have made sure that you heard what I had to say. And so I want to share this because if I felt it, I'm sure other people have felt it and do feel it as well. And so that's just a little piece of advice in navigating these situations is check in with the friend first, right? When there is a potential triangle or something like that, check in with the person that you're closest to, get their opinion, and try and do it in a one-on-one situation where you really have the chance to hear them out, and then move forward from there. And again, no answer was the wrong answer. There are pros and cons to each one. I'm glad that he and her ended up connecting, right? I feel like they're both cool people, and so in that sense, I'd hope that they continue to see each other and things. But I also feel like there's a right way and a less right way to go about things, and I felt like this was the less right way. So take the lesson from me, learn from this experience, and when you are out with your friends, try not to let others come between you. And one of the ways to do that is to check in with your friends, see how they're feeling, see what they're thinking, and make sure you get the chance to fully hear them out. So take care. I wish you the best.